boardroom. This is the business of esports. As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports weekly news show podcast. Although I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, Lindsay the Boss Poss, Jeff the Juice Cohen. For those of you who are new here, welcome. What we do is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topic news of the week. But we look at all of the business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in the industry. But the best part about the weekly news show is we get to do it live with you guys. You get to challenge us, get in our faces, ask questions, participate. We really encourage you guys. Don't be shy. If you want to lurk, no problem. We still love having you here. You're still more than welcome. But we encourage everyone to participate. It makes it that much more fun, and we really enjoy it. How are you guys doing this week, Lindsay? How are things?
So today was a pretty bad day, but then some really good things happened. The first is I actually had enough time to make hot chocolate before the live stream, which was great, and especially since
don't
Jeff
rub it into Jeff.
I know Jeff doesn't have his usual cup, so someone had to have it, and it was me today. And the second great thing that happened is one of my friends called to tell me that she had started listening to the podcast that I host and just loved it. She gave me some really, really kind feedback. So that kind of really uplifted me and was great. We released an awesome episode today. So everyone should go check it out.
Yes. We're going to stop the show. We're going to pause here. Everyone go get your phones out. All right. Everyone get your phones out. Go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Play or whatever kind of device you have, whatever podcast app you have. Go to search Meta Space Woman, and go subscribe to Lindsay's show. Whether you're a man or a woman, you should absolutely subscribe. It's an incredible show. She does a great job every week, great guests every week, and so highly recommend it. Jeff, I know how you're doing today because you and I, my friend, have spent like the last 3 hours together.
Yeah, I stepped up to the plate, to record the podcast. We had an awesome guest, so you look forward to that. And I'm taking Jimmy's place. I think, we'll announce it probably, if he's watching, I don't want him to see this live, but we'll break the news to him that I'm the new host. It's fine. You can't take days off in this business. You just can't. You get
show
replaced.
Business is cutthroat. It's a dog eat dog world. He supposedly has COVID. And so, it was his spot to lose there, Jeff, and you stepped in very nicely. So it's a great segue. Tomorrow's episode of the podcast, or the episode that drops this week, Chris Matthews was our guest from Game Rabble. A lot of interesting discussion around esports coaching and their specific target demographic, which is younger and kids. So really interesting conversation there, and co-hosted by none other than the Juice himself. So you guys will get a little something different on this week's podcast, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Starwise says, finally timed right to tune into one of these. Can't wait to take in some esports wisdom. Starwise, thank you so much. We love having you here, so welcome. I don't know who this is, but says, hello, everyone. Looking forward to some hot takes. Hello. Thank you. Robert says, hello. Robert, great to see you. Michael says, hello, everyone. Michael, great to see you. And there's the man himself,
There
Chris,
he is.
who is the guest you have to look forward to on this week's podcast, guys. So definitely go check out that episode when it drops this week. It'll drop tomorrow, Friday, as always.
Just as a quick side plug, I also had Cecile Matthews on the Meta Woman podcast, episode 2, to also talk about Game Rabble. So listen to both of them.
Yeah, I love that idea, actually, right? Why listen to just one, Lindsay? They should just listen to all of them. Adam says, if Jeff replaces Jimmy, does that mean there's an opening? I mean, Adam, I like the way you're thinking. It's very cutthroat, and there might be, how many games did Lou Gehrig replace?
Wally Pip, he got, all it took was one. You just give an opening, and then it was thousands of games.
What's an interesting part of the story that you left out, Jeff, because he told it on the Business of Esports podcast, is Wally. Do you know what was wrong with him?
No.
He woke up one morning and he had a headache. He said he had a headache, and that cost him basically the rest of his baseball career. So
it's unfortunate.
So it really is an unfortunate thing. Poor Jimmy. Wes says, wave. Hello, Wes. Great to have you here. Welcome. And Chris says, also sounds awesome. Michael says, wait, what? Where's Jimmy? Michael, we're just teasing. Jimmy is going to be back next week. He has COVID, unfortunately, and his voice has suffered today. And so just giving him a day to rest and recover. And by next week, I guarantee you he will be back at the podcast and back at the live show. So unfortunately, no Jimmy today, but we are going to do our best and dedicate this show to him, and try and live up to the quality we deliver, guys, every single week. So let me jump into it. We have big news stories this week, some big ones, some little ones. I think we have to start with the biggest, obviously, the most obvious story. And the headline here, guys, is, I'm sure all of you saw this story. This was, not something that flew under the radar. And the headline here is a wacky $3.6 billion end to gaming acquisition January. Sony buys Bungie. House that built Halo will now build content for Sony, yet pledges to remain cross-platform. So after we talked at length the last 2 weeks about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, now Sony has announced they're acquiring Bungie, which basically is the Destiny series of games, Destiny and Destiny 2. And they're going to pay $3.6 billion. That's the report. That Sony hasn't confirmed that figure, just to be clear. But it sounds like all of this is quite accurate. So $3.6 billion. And they have said, or at least the rumors, is that Destiny will remain cross-platform. So I'm curious what you guys think of this. This has been a month of acquisitions. This has been, I can't believe we're talking about $3.6 billion as like a small one, right? Like this is a minor acquisition.
What a year this month has been. I mean, it's
truly.
I did see that where it was like there was more gaming, and it might have even been before the Bungie announcement. There was more gaming M&A dollars in January than all of 2021, and 2021 was the biggest gaming M&A year in the history of gaming M&A years. So
yeah,
talk about the same accelerate. I mean, that's just mind blowing. Part of it, I like to think that Sony, saw the Microsoft Activision news and kind of was like, hey, what would be great? Like, let's pick up Bungie because it's like the jilted lover, because Bungie, spurned Microsoft and obviously was the original creator of Halo. So it's almost like, they're like sleeping with their ex-wife, Microsoft's ex-wife or something, to use a crass example. But I'm guessing that's not what happened. These deals obviously do not come together in the span of days. So this had obviously been in the works for some time. But I think it would be funnier if that was the case. That's my first thought. I do have a bunch of other thoughts, but I can let Lindsay jump in first.
Oh, I was just going to say I read an article where it said it had been in the making for 6 months. So You were right. Someone put an exact number on it.
I was going to say it. I mean, I'm not saying these things can happen overnight, but sometimes, given that this wasn't like confirmed, really, a lot of it's still reports and rumors. Like, it could have been a direct response, right? That's not necessarily. And Lindsay, I trust that article was accurate or whatever. I'm not questioning it. It's more just, this could have happened as a response. The timing is possible, right? Announcing the deal and not having dotted all the I's and all the T's, cross all the T's, dotted all the I's, given that nothing was officially announced here even, right? This was all like rumors and reports, seems plausible.
So what do we make of the valuation? I mean, to me, the first thing that jumped out to me was just 3.6 billion for Bungie is it seems just like a lot. Yeah. I mean, to use William's old analogy, like that's one Star Wars. Destiny is not Star Wars. Obviously, you can't, that's not a perfect analogy, but Destiny is not Star Wars. The other thing I thought was, so Activision, even though they never owned Bungie, they had the publishing rights for it. And in 2018, I'll never forget this. It was actually the night I launched coverage on Activision as the sell-side analyst. They got rid of Bungie. I think the stock was down 10% the next day. And I remember getting a call from the IR person and being like, "So yeah, this is awkward." But they basically gave away, the rights to publish Destiny for nothing. Essentially, it was like they got some cash figure, but it wasn't even enough that they actually had to disclose it. So it was probably a few $100 million, if that. The fact that team and that IP is now worth 3.6 billion. I'm someone who always gives Bobby Kotick a lot of credit in terms of his business acumen and kind of the things he's done, the capital allocations. That has to sort of be a little bit of a black mark. The fact that he effectively gave away this IP for nothing, even though he didn't technically own it, he just had the rights to publish it. The fact that it's now worth 3.6 billion is pretty astonishing. To me, I don't see a world where Bungie is worth that. I get the narrative, you just need scale, you need developers, it's a good team, it's a pretty good IP. Also, Sony is looking to get more into live services, sort of build up subscription, kind of that whole narrative. I understand it. But, Destiny is doing, I don't know, what, a couple $100 million in revenue, probably between maybe 300 million in revenue. That's not worth 3.6 billion to me. I don't think.
Adam says, "Oh boy, the spam bots have joined the chat." Adam, it's a sign of our growth. We are big enough now to attract their attention. Michael says, "Seems like a panic move by Sony. I doubt such move was in the works before Microsoft's announcement. It's turning into when I move you in the gaming industry." Well, let me just read this, guys, and to Michael's point here, and Jeff, to yours.
It's when I move, you move. It's a song.
I move, you move. Oh, sorry. Let me just read this. There was an interesting sort of summary of call it the Bungie sort of life cycle. Okay. And so Bungie makes Halo. Okay. Microsoft buys Bungie to get Halo and make Xbox. Bungie makes Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and finally Halo Reach. Bungie's sick of Halo. Bungie asks Microsoft if it can go away. Microsoft says, "LOL, sure, but we keep Halo." Microsoft starts 343 Industries to keep making Halo. A handful of Bungie staff stays behind. The rest go start making Destiny. Bungie needs more money, signs exclusive publisher deal with Activision. Bungie eventually gets sick of Activision, buys self out of publishing deal. Bungie once again needs more money, sells self to Sony. So I thought this was kind of a clever, like, here's the whole story in a nutshell. And in Bobby's defense, Jeff, to the comment you made, they got sick of Activision, according to this. So whether, he didn't see the value or they got scared away, essentially, of Activision, we could fault Bobby or we could not. You're right that he missed out on something now someone valued at 3.6 billion. My feeling on this, guys, is, and I think I put this on my LinkedIn, I had put it out as sort of a thought or a comment, was this is definitely Sony's response to Activision Blizzard. And it's it's the equivalent of Cold War mad or Cold War mutually assured destruction, right? Where Sony knows that Microsoft now has a stable of games that they could take exclusive and hurt Sony. So Sony needs to build a stable of games that they could take exclusive to hurt Microsoft. Chances are none of them will make any of these games exclusive because they know as soon as the other one makes one exclusive, they'll get a response, right? And so everyone wants to avoid mutually assured destruction, but everyone has the exclusives, kind of like nukes, sitting in silos with no intention of ever firing them, but it's a deterrent to a universe of exclusives. Do either of you buy that theory? Or because I've got some pushback on that. I've had a lot of people agree with me. You know, Jeff, I know we've talked about it in our Discord, which everyone, by the way, should go join. Discord.gg. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Discord.gg/MetaTV. If you want to sort of continue the fun we have on the live stream every week and discuss things in our Discord. But your pushback on me, and sorry, I'm gonna put words in your mouth, was, well, this is like, you know, bringing a knife to a gunfight, basically.
Does
it matter how big the knife is?
I think your theory is right, but it's just a bad response because there really is no other Call of Duty. But I do think you are correct in your theory of this mad thing.
Well, Greg says, seems like it's my weekly question. But is EA next?
Yes.
Does Sony buy EA?
They might.
I hope not.
Why?
So
Why?
I don't know.
Lindsay.
I like I like when there's more independent game companies. Like, I don't want to live in a world where there's like 3 companies and they own everything. It'll just be less interesting for us to talk about, invest in. Like that doesn't behoove any of us. I don't think. The other thing with EA is just hard with some of their, like, the sports games. I think you could get some pushback from the leagues if you tried to make them exclusive to like one platform. So I could see that being a problem just in the contracts in general. So that might be the one reason why maybe EA doesn't get swallowed up, at least by a Microsoft or a Sony. Maybe they get bought by someone else. But I think they're more likely to be one of the few remaining consolidators on the publisher side than get bought by someone. Total guess, kind of, but I don't know. What do you
Lindsay,
guys think?
sorry, you had thoughts on this, on the EA?
Yeah,
thing.
so I wanted to go back to your mutually assured destruction thing for a moment. I went and looked up. It was an Axios newsletter where I saw that this was 5 to 6 months in the making. And I went and looked at the quote of it, and it's a tweet from the head of gamesindustrybiz.com, who said that he spoke with Jim Ryan. So take with that what you will. I think it's pretty easy for Jim Ryan to come out and say, no, this wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. It took us 5 to 6 months. I think it's just as easy.
What are they going to say? Right? Like, what are they
for that to be true as it is for it to be not true.
Yeah.
So it may or may not be a knee-jerk reaction, but he, in his succeeding tweet, did say that Jim Ryan also said to expect more mergers and acquisitions from Sony. So with that in mind, and again, this is the word of a journalist, of course. He's the head of Games Industry Biz, so there's some weight there, and I'm assuming he may have been able to actually speak directly with him. With that in mind, I obviously think there's a chance that they buy EA for sure. But I also think when it comes to EA, it's just sort of we're just in a waiting game now, seeing who actually gets to it. And all of these buyouts, they're probably sitting pretty and upping their valuation every day another merger goes through for a ludicrous amount. So they're in a good spot right now, actually, I think.
I think a great spot, but you make 2 interesting points, Lindsay. One is the 6 months number. I didn't realize came out of an interview, right? Or a question asked by a journalist. Like, of course, what is
right?
What is the CEO of a company going to say, right? Oh no, we like threw this out the last second, right? I had this idea on the way to work and then we just did it. Like, of course they're going to say, oh no, this is thoughtful. You know, we've been doing this, working on this for 6 months. Of course. Now, is that the reality? My guess, probably not. I think this was knee-jerk reaction. Now, where I give them credit is I have a funny feeling Sony doesn't stop here. And this is maybe to Jeff's point, which is like, if if you'd rather have in this mad scenario, right, this mutually assured destruction scenario, you need a bigger knife. Maybe Bungie was just the first, you build the small nuke first, when even though you're going to build an arsenal of bigger nukes eventually. Does Sony have the conviction, the will, the cash? Like, I'm curious from a business standpoint, is a Sony EA move likely? Could we see Sony and Nintendo maybe? A Japanese company may be able to finally crack the Nintendo nut. I don't know. But
there's a lot of corporate history between those two companies that I don't know that would work.
The question is, does the Sony EA work from a financial standpoint?
It probably does. I mean, I guess I think you would have a very interesting math problem to figure out if it made sense to make the sports games exclusive. I'm not convinced that it does. At some point, actually, this is it. At some point, the more games that go exclusive to one of the two platforms, it makes less sense to make games exclusive, right? And I'll explain the reason why. The reason why you make some games exclusive, right, is so you get people to buy your hardware. But really, the why you want them to buy your hardware is not just to get the revenue from the hardware, because that's pretty low margin. Actually, most of them give the hardware out at cost. You want to get them on your platform so that the other third-party games are bought on your platform, and you make like a 30% basically margin right off the top. It's 100% flows to the bottom line. If there are no more third-party games, then you sort of lose the benefit of that. So it's almost like I don't know that it makes sense to buy something and then put it all only on your platform, because you lose sort of the pie at the end of the the gold at the end of the rainbow if there are no third-party publishers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're saying if they all get bought up,
the Cold
War's over, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like,
then it becomes World War I. They're just in like two trenches, like not moving, and just like killing one another, basically. To use that analogy, go to a different war.
Adam says no one wants to buy EA, too bad a reputation. I mean, Adam, I'd agree with you, except that we saw Activision Blizzard in the middle of one of the worst like scandals in gaming history get bought for a huge amount. So I don't know if that would deter Sony, to be honest. Adam says, I'll bet Microsoft tried to buy EA, but they were like, we'll go partners with you on Game Pass instead. That's an interesting thought, in the sense that, my guess is Microsoft would definitely have preferred a partnership path with Game Pass, right? Like, if they knew everyone would play ball on Game Pass, Microsoft wouldn't need to really acquire anyone. Do you guys agree with that? In a perfect world for Microsoft, where every developer says, I'm okay putting my games on Game Pass, does Microsoft need to own any developers?
That's like saying, why does Netflix need to aggregate, to have first party studios?
Because people are making their own content and putting it on their own platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Because not everyone wants their stuff on Netflix.
I think you're actually right. And one of the reasons why is just because they have pushed Game Pass as their kind of biggest strategy lately. If they were maybe less interested in Game Pass and more interested in game sales, or indicated that they had more faith in game sales, then I would say that they needed a developer. But given their push for Game Pass, then if everyone just used Game Pass, I think they'd be fine with it.
Yeah, they wouldn't need to own. Jane, welcome, Jane, says the deal may have been in the works for a while, but the timing of the press release may have been knee-jerk. That's an excellent
very
point.
True.
Right? It is an excellent point. Greg says all the major tech companies are fighting over sports coverage. Wouldn't EA make sense as a follow-on? Greg, for who? For Sony? Sony.
I think he means for Apple or Netflix.
Yeah. I still feel like
Google
Apple is the number one.
Amazon.
But
Amazon
Sony
actually makes the most sense. Amazon.
Amazon. Well, we've talked about that, but even Sony, you could make that argument. They have like TV production and movie studios and all those kinds of things, right? Like, I mean, they're in the TV and entertainment business beyond just games. Adam says, I could see Sony and EA doing another partnership when it comes to their new Star Wars games, but I don't see EA being bought.
Ooh, disagree. I think it's a waiting game for EA.
Yeah. I'd like to. I agree with you, Lindsay. I think it is inevitable. It feels inevitable at this point. Michael says EA isn't.
You guys are really of
anymore.
the mindset. Before you read this, you're really of the mindset that there will be no more independent, just game, like third-party publishers.
No, that's not. I mean,
like large.
It's like the life cycle of industries.
Yeah.
If EA gets bought, then it's just Take-Two and the CD Projekt Red would be the only ones left.
Yeah, but who's to say that you won't get upstarts that grow into larger companies, right? That have hits that eventually become Ubisoft scale, EA scale, whatever, like Bethesda scale. Like, I don't think it's that crazy to think that there's probably a dozen developers today, indie, called them indie or smaller, like startup scale developers that will grow to be Bethesda or Ubisoft or Bungie scale. Definitely Bungie scale.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have hundreds of millions of venture money going to game developers if they didn't think that we're going to have some, multi-billion-dollar exits there.
Agreed. And to be fair, if you would ask me a month ago, I would never have thought Activision was going to get sold. So, we are living in crazy times. You're probably right. It just still haven't wrapped my brain around it.
I actually read a bit about antitrust and horizontal versus vertical mergers, and the ones so far have seemed to be more vertical, which does typically increase competition and innovation within the space. So if game publishers were buying other game publishers, I think I would have a different reaction. And I know tech and gaming are definitely periphery. They're tangentially related. They're not purely the same though. Adding a big tech company could add layers of bureaucracy, but it also adds a lot more manpower and investment dollars and infrastructure and all of that stuff that could actually lead to some innovation with larger publishers that have been more stagnant for a while. So we'll see.
It's a great point. Michael says EA isn't as attractive anymore because they are ending their contract with the FIFA brand, which is their main revenue. I think Sony will make the next move, but this war will become a Royal Rumble. More giants like Google and Tencent might join. So, Michael, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just going to say, and you can respond if you want. I don't agree with the first part. I definitely agree with the last part. Well, maybe not Google, because I think they already shot their shot and they're backing off. Tencent, I mean, we've seen them be an aggregator for years. I think it would be very hard politically for them to make a big acquisition, but they're always going to be there putting their games out and kind of encroaching into the West. In terms of the FIFA thing, EA is not going to not have a soccer game. It's just they're not going to call it FIFA, which I think is incredibly smart, because apparently they're paying something like $150 million a year to license that. Like, you can't tell me if it was called EA Soccer, you wouldn't buy it. Like, it's going to be the same game. You're not going to go buy the Konami version or whatever the other competitors are. Like, to me, I see that as a very smart move. To some extent, I think they could probably do it also with Madden. I know obviously John Madden just died, so it would be really crass of them to do it now. Like, they need to wait a few years, obviously, but like, they're paying like an egregious amount.
Dead, rename this thing.
Yeah, like people know what these games are. Like, you could just call it EA Football, and like, you're going to get the same amount of people. You don't have to pay John Madden $30 million a year. Like, it just you don't need to. The only question with FIFA is like, what do you call it? Because you can't call it soccer, right? Because you sell so much internationally, and you can't call it football because then people get confused with Madden. So I do think there's like, you're going to have to come up with some word there. Like, that's the only thing on that where I'm like, I don't know what they'll call it. Maybe they'll call it football, like FUT, whatever, in overseas, and soccer here. But other than that, it makes no sense to go with the FIFA brand. You're just throwing money out that I don't think you need for branding purposes.
Yeah, I'll just chime in on the Royal Rumble thing. Like, I think a big part of the focus here on these acquisitions is around exclusives. And so this is where Sony and Microsoft are going to have to dig deep and spend a lot of dollars because they're the they're the US and Russia in this Cold War analogy, right? Google and Tencent do not aren't in that same head to head, right? There's the console war is driving a lot of the actions here and a lot of the acquisitions happening here. So I'm not saying that other tech companies aren't going to throw their hats in the ring. Definitely, we're going to see acquisitions from other tech companies of gaming companies. But I think Sony and Microsoft, by June or July, we're still going to be talking about those as being some of the bigger acquisitions, if not the biggest.
I have a question for you guys, because I was reading a little bit of analysis about the Bungie deal, and one of the things that I thought was interesting was that Sony doesn't have very many subscription-based games. So Halo and Destiny were really attractive in that sense. And that's where I think EA might fall a little short for them. I mean, they do have Apex, and Apex is a little bit different than subscription even. I mean, it's free to play, kind of a different model than, although I guess so is Halo to an extent. But anyways, the point is, EA does a lot of the same things that Sony does with newer versions of everything, $60 box copies sold once a year. How much do you think that the revenue model for a game is going to play into some of these later acquisitions now? Do you think companies are going to be looking to diversify? Do you think the fact that EA is mostly a box company is going to make it a little harder for them?
Well, I would push back on that last point. I mean, EA, I think the vast majority of their revenue is live services, like specifically the Ultimate Team and Apex. They do break it out, so I don't know specifically what it is, but it's like it's like a significant portion. But I get what you're saying.
It's microtransactions.
It's not subscription. Yes, it's not subscription. It's not subscription.
Not a
it's
monthly
like
WoW style. Yeah.
Microtransactions.
But Paul, you can respond if you want, but I think your question's a great one in the sense that I did see some commentary about how Sony, part of this was to get more live services, kind of games as a service expertise. So I think that you're probably definitely right.
I mean, I'd like to say I wish there was there is probably some rational business study to be done here to say is it better to make acquisitions in companies where your business models are aligned, right? We're really good at microtransactions, they're really good at microtransactions, so it makes sense. Or is it better to buy companies where our business models are radically different? I mean, the Take-Two Zynga thing just threw this all out of whack, if you ask me, right? Like, that couldn't be more polar opposite business models. So if they can justify that from a business standpoint, my view is we can probably justify any acquisition of a gaming company by another, and literally any acquisition of a gaming company by a tech company. What it all, I think, is going to come down to is not business model alignment. It's going to come down to execution once the acquisition's done, what those companies do with the assets. Do they continue to make great games that people want to play, right? Like, to me, it still has to be fun, and all the business models in the world can't make a bad game fun.
And I think you're right, 100% on that. Do you guys ever think that like a guy like someone like Strauss, or even like the Zynga, Frank and the Zynga team, do you think they're like, damn, if we had just waited like a couple more weeks, like right now, if Take-Two hadn't announced the Zynga deal, like their stock's probably $200 plus. Like, do you think in any capacity they're kicking themselves like, yeah, we really sort of jumped the gun a little bit doing that? Or you think it's just like, no, we have a plan, we're executing, like this is our strategy? I don't know.
If you're on any side of any of these deals, Jeff, that have happened in the last 4 weeks, would you be upset about any of them? If you were on any side of any one of the companies?
No, but only one of the company's stocks went down when they announced the deal. It seems to me like Take-Two seems to be the only one losing in this whole thing.
Well, because it felt so disjointed, right? Like that one felt, we can all have look, it took us 10 minutes to come up with 12 explanations for why the Sony Bungie thing probably makes sense. Now, is it worth the Star Wars? No. But in the world we live in, that's the price these things are going for. And so that's what it is. The Take-Two Zynga one, I think we all struggle to sort of explain that. And as you know, with public companies, so much of what the stock does is what the message is to shareholders in the market. I think Strauss will forever struggle to tell that story coherently. He's sort of stuck himself with a difficult story to tell on every earnings call. We're way behind here. Let me get caught up on. Greg says, "How about?" There you go. EA goal. I'm not even going to attempt to do it, Greg. A nice try if that was the purpose here, but I cannot. Lindsay, you can try it if you'd like.
Goal!
Tom says, "Have you mentioned Disney with their ESPN brand for the sports angle?" We've talked about Disney, I think, on previous episodes, previous podcasts. They could definitely be a buyer of EA, but they've shown tremendous inability to do anything good with gaming. Maybe more so than any other company. Maybe less than Google, but more than anybody else.
I would actually, before we move on from that, I would actually go as far as say is Disney is the company that makes the most sense to be in gaming that is not in gaming. Like, yeah, I get it. Some of these other ones, Apple, Amazon, like they're on the peripheries. It's just like, well, Amazon's so damn big, like it makes sense for them to do everything. Disney, it's like, this is what you do. Entertainment, digital entertainment, streaming, theme parks. Like this interactive entertainment is the future of all of that. And you own all these IPs, right? To your point, ESPN brand. They own Star Wars. They own Marvel. You're telling me you couldn't come up with a kick-ass Marvel game? Like, it is a massive, massive strategic blunder that Disney doesn't seem to have any interest in interactive entertainment. And I guarantee you that will change. Right now, I feel like their current CEO and their current strategy is so focused on getting streaming and Disney Plus correct, which is a massive initiative and probably makes sense to put all of their focus on that. But you can bet in the next 5 years, they are going to have, the next CEO, once this guy probably fails, will come in and say, we are going to be an interactive entertainment company, because it makes no sense that they're not in it. It's just too obvious.
To be fair, they do license some of their IP to make games, right? There are Marvel, licensed games, but it's not in-house, right? It's all outsourced. Adam says, also, Paul, to your point about Activision, since the board came out publicly supporting Bobby before the specific allegations against him, I'll bet selling was their way to save face. I mean, Adam, this couldn't have been a better exit for Bobby. So from a saving face perspective, right? Like, he gets out, big payday.
I would love to save face with $500 million. Yeah. If anyone wants to pay me to exit this live stream for $500 million, you know what?
Oh, come on, Lindsay. I'm hurt.
What about the friends you've made along the way, Lindsay?
I know what my friendship is worth now. There's definitely a price tag. Adam says, who said bad games have to be fun? They just have to be profitable.
I heard that's actually Activision Blizzard's tagline.
Yes, that is their tagline. The marketing department phoned that one in. Adam says, what would one Star Wars be worth today, I wonder? I mean, that's not totally the purview of this podcast, but what would one Star Wars be worth in the context of Activision Blizzard at $70 billion and Bungie at $3.6 billion?
Like $18 billion. I guess the only thing you gotta remember, like when Disney bought Star Wars, it was like between the trilogies, and like it kind of like was dead, dying a little bit. So you always have to remember that. But what do you think,
Lindsay?
Oh, I have no good guesses. Please don't make me guess value.
No one has a good guess. That's the whole fun of this. Like, what do you think we took out our spreadsheet and did the math?
I think it's worth one Star Wars is worth 10 Bungies, $36 billion.
So now we're using Bungie as the unit of measurement.
That's what I was just laughing.
One Star Wars is 10 Bungies, I think. And 36 billion is also kind of the magic number for like good gaming companies right now. They all go public at like 36 billion. It seems to be a bit of the golden number in the industry. So I think if Star Wars got sold today, 36 billion. That would be my guess. All right, guys, let's move on from this. We have so much else to get to. Let's change gears a little bit. So a little bit more, I'll call it light topic, but not as businessy, I guess. And this one is just a follow-up from if you guys remember, we talked about ValkyRae, right? And she wasn't sure if she was going to go back to YouTube, wasn't sure if this was all a negotiation tactic. She claimed she was done, didn't want to stream anymore. Well, there's a story now confirming ValkyRae confirming that she is staying with YouTube Gaming. So she announced her plans to continue streaming exclusively on YouTube Gaming. And she's done that for the last 2 years, and it's going to continue. And, she made an announcement, a little like an announcement video even, that, she was staying with YouTube. It was a bit mocking, like as if it was going to be a big announcement, and really it was just to say that she's staying. So what do we feel about ValkyRae's? Let's try and keep this sort of business focused, right? Is it confirmed that all of this was a negotiation tactic? Like, do you guys conclude that, or do you come to a different conclusion here, how this may have played out?
Well, there's three ways you could look at it. It could either be a negotiation tactic. It could have been actual, her actual feelings, which I think we had talked about a bunch. Or it could all just be a marketing ploy by YouTube. Like maybe this was just the whole plan all along, was to create this buzz about will she, won't she, blah blah blah, and then maybe for all we know, she could have signed that contract a month, when we were talking about it, and this could all have been just part of this announcement strategy. So I wouldn't put any of those three behind it. I would be fascinated to know which one it is. I'm not going to lose much sleep over wondering, but it would be cool to find out.
Lindsay, your thoughts on this?
I saw this and just sort of rolled my eyes a little bit, because this whole saga has just been largely unnecessary. And I hope if she was truly going through something that she figured it out. But the timing of all of these announcements has been a little suspect. So
I don't buy the will she, won't she approach here, right? Like, why, if you're YouTube Gaming, would you want to give the market the impression that your big stars are considering leaving, right? Like,
yeah, I thought it made YouTube look bad, honestly.
It did make YouTube look bad.
Yeah.
Right? She sort of, not directly, but kind of accused them of like overworking her or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like she had to do the remaining 22 hours or whatever on her contract, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like everyone in this came out a loser. YouTube Gaming doesn't look good. ValkyRae doesn't look good. I'm guessing behind the scenes, my guess is this was a pure negotiation tactic to get more money out of YouTube Gaming. And the fact that she went back to YouTube after she kind of like, it wasn't a glowing review of YouTube Gaming, shows just how much desperation there is at YouTube Gaming, right? Like, it means they probably caved if there was a negotiation.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
It's not good, right? Like
she comes out looking like a winner, maybe not from a PR standpoint, but from a bank account standpoint, it seems.
Yeah,
good
for her for that.
Yeah,
secure the bag.
YouTube Gaming got they're gonna have a new head. Your favorite person, Ryan Wyatt, has moved to a new, very exciting seeming job. So best of luck to him. Who do you think? I heard they're taking applications for head of YouTube Gaming. So this is your chance now, Paul. Put you on your thinking cap and get in there.
They could take my beautiful Prophet of Esports jersey, put it on a hanger and lay that on a chair, and it would lead YouTube Gaming more effectively than the current management. But I mean, anything's better than what's there right now. Literally, I don't think there's anything YouTube Gaming could do at this point that wouldn't be an improvement. So like this just seems totally mismanaged, right? Like this whole ValkyRae thing should have been done in private, should have been a positive announcement, not this like waiting and seeing and making it seem like your big stars want to leave. It just felt mismanaged. All right, unless you guys have any other thoughts on this, let's move on. Let's talk about some same vein here, staying Chain says athletes do it all the time. ValkyRae just pulled in Aaron Rodgers.
It's a good point.
It's a good point. I think the complaining didn't sit well with a lot of people, and then the platform caving to that, if anything, shows weakness, right?
It
If
was
I'm,
also
if
kind
I'm,
of the platform for giving her a streamy in the middle of it, and it was just all kind of, it all just had a weird flavor going on. It wasn't,
uh,
this isn't like the worst thing to ever happen in streaming, and I
no,
don't think she's a villain by any means. And
no,
if she
no.
got more money,
course not.
good for her. She certainly deserves
But
it. She's a top streamer, but it just was a little funky smelling.
Lindsay, don't you think like Dr. Lupo, Tim the Tatman, all the other big stars who are on YouTube gaming may look at this and go, you know, we should pull something similar, right? Like if YouTube gaming did give her more, and we don't know, this is all speculation, right? If they did give her more as a consequence of this, do we see a lot of these big talent pull the same move, holding out for more money from YouTube gaming?
I mean, they might as well. YouTube gaming doesn't have a super clear strategy. They've been losing more to Facebook gaming. They've been spending more on streaming. It's if you, I mean, YouTube makes plenty of money. I guess if you can get a portion of that, why wouldn't you try? I don't think that we're gonna see a whole bunch of streamers acting wild or extremely disrespectful or taking their careers over this or anything, but YouTube has the money and they could have a much more coherent strategy. But if I were a streamer, I'd consider capitalizing off of whatever they're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, talent's always going to extract value. I mean, that's sort of like just the nature of any talent industry. Like you've seen this in the movie industry, you've seen this sports. It's pretty much just a fact. Like the money ends up accruing to the talent
Until things break, which actually maybe I'm gonna switch the order of stories here, because maybe this is a good segue into this story, which is um, Overwatch League likely getting a third party operator. This is the rumor now. So you know, we had talked a little bit about what would happen to COD League and Overwatch League after the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And then we had the merger of ESL and Faceit, and sale to Savvy Gaming. And it seems now that Activision Blizzard's going to farm out all their operations to run Overwatch League, to like farm it out to a third party. And I'm curious, you know, the reason why I think there's an interesting segue from the previous topic to this one is like, Jeff, to your point, talent's going to, you know, try and maximize what they get until the system breaks, right? Until they've sucked so much out that the, you know, the system that they benefit from can no longer function. And I'm not saying YouTube gaming is going to fail, but similarly, like this is sort of what has happened with these Activision Blizzard leagues, where cost structures get out of control for the most part, and it becomes impossible to succeed. Do either of you think that farming out operations for Overwatch League changes anything? And do you think any of this was precipitated or caused by or a consequence of the Microsoft acquisition?
Lindsay, do you want to start, or
No, I was waiting for you since
I can start? I mean,
you're the Activision guy.
I don't think. I mean, I doubt this is because of Microsoft. Like, it's funny because we did speculate when the Microsoft deal happened that we would, you know, see this occur, and we did speculate when the Savvy Gaming Group acquisition of ESL and Faceit happened that maybe it was in response to, you know, this potentially happening. So we really did call it. But I don't know that Activision Blizzard is making changes internally yet, because that deal is not going to close for a year, and it might not even close. So I doubt they're making like big strategic changes based on what Microsoft's going to want. Like I just don't think they're at the point in the integration where that probably is happening, you know, 2 weeks, 10 days into it. I don't know that this is a good thing for the league. I mean, or for the owners, let's put it that way, or for the players. And the reason why I don't think that is because it's just another hand in the pot, another slice, if you will, of a shrinking pie.
So true.
Where like adding another for-profit company into this, like I just don't see how that, unless they do such a good job that they're able to sell more ads, or the production value is just so much better that the product gets better and the pie grows. I just, you know, definitionally, mathematically, cutting the pie into more slices like isn't going to grow the pie for people. You're just going to get literally less of it. I would be more bullish if the owners of the league bought something like Esports Engine and brought it in house, right? Like and then they own the means of production, and it was sort of all done in house. I just don't think adding another third party for profit company is gonna do any good for a shrinking revenue pie.
Because the problem wasn't the product, right? Like Call of Duty League going to Esports Engine, like, to operate. The problem was not the broadcast or the commentators, or like, that wasn't the issue. Like, no one was watching Overwatch League going, man, I wish this production value was a little higher. Then I tune in every week. Like, yeah, Lindsay, I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when we called for fresh blood and fresh ideas, this isn't what I meant. So that was exactly what I thought, Paul. It's like, well, I mean, they needed some new things and some innovation in there, but do I think that they need another tournament provider? No, that's not really what I was talking about necessarily.
Wes says Overwatch operated by Esports Engine is the buzz. I mean, Wes, I'm with Jeff and Lindsay on this, in the sense that, and especially to Jeff's point of, like, another hand in the pot is precisely what both of those leagues don't need, right? They needed fewer hands in the pot. They needed to reduce costs, and if it may be, like, I don't know how the economics here work, right? If Activision Blizzard just is handing all their economics to Esports Engine, and Esports Engine can run this more economically and give more back to the owner, I don't know, right? So there is a scenario where maybe this works to their benefit. I just suspect that if cost cutting was the goal of bringing an Esports Engine, they've missed the mark. If changing the product was the goal of bringing an Esports Engine, they've missed the mark, right? Like, the fundamentally, the problem was always been the structure, and that structure was always going to mean failure for the owners, unfortunately. I suspect, I don't like this theory, but the tinfoil hat theory is this is Activision Blizzard finally just not wanting the stink of both of those leagues on them, right? Like, if it continues to fail, well, it's their fault. That's their problem, right? We did everything we could. Don't get mad at us, owners. Go talk to Esports Engine. And if it succeeds miraculously, right, because miracles do happen, they can still take some of the credit. It's still their leagues.
Yeah, we made the
Is there a world where they do what you just said, where they say, look, we are probably never going to make it was never structured right with us taking 50% of the profits. We don't really care. We're selling to Microsoft. Like, that little piece of revenue is not that important to them. Microsoft wants community. They want a vibrant esports scene. Let's take that 50%, give 15% of it to Esports Engine, and the rest to the owners, the players, and really do it right. Like, if that's what's happening here, who knows if it'll work? But I think I would be way more bullish, as I'm sure you would be, than, hey, let's just bring in someone who's going to cost even more than doing it in-house and just have them do it. Like, that's just insanity. I don't know.
100% agree. If that's and you articulated it perfectly, Jeff. If that's what they're doing, I'm actually quite bullish on that, because I think if you solve those structural problems like that, the owners might be able to make money, might be able to invest more, right? Like, you may be able to actually build a sustainable league long term. But I mean, we don't know. We just don't know if that's the case. We hope that's the case, but don't know if that's the case. I also just fundamentally believe Esports Engine's not going to do it for a third of whatever Activision Blizzard was doing it for, right? Like, that's just...
it would make no sense. Of course, the internal people are going to do it for, like, it's in one hand, in one pocket, out the other. Like, they're not marking it up to make a profit.
Chris says NFL viewership doesn't change based on the channel it's on. Kill it with fire already. I mean, Chris, you said exactly what I'm thinking, but doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. So it is what it is. Guys, let's talk about Paramount. We talked about Disney. Let's talk about Paramount. Paramount in gaming news this week. And the headline here is Paramount Plus confirms League of Legends esports mockumentary for 2022. Riot Games released the first promotional photo for the series, which It's like this couldn't be a more stereotypical esports team photo, I guess. And Paramount Plus has confirmed that Players, that's the name of the show, a League of Legends mockumentary described as a comedic docu-style series exploring the world of esports through a fictional League of Legends team's championship pursuit, will be coming to the streaming platform sometime in 2022. It was announced last August. It's being distributed by Paramount, but it's being produced by Riot, just to be clear. And involved are going to be Tony Yacenda, Dan Perot, previously created American Vandal, which was a parody of true crime documentaries that was released on Netflix. So you have Riot producing it. You have other producers here who are, who come from a world of mockumentaries or parody documentaries. So there seems to be the right people in the room. My question to you guys is, will this be a success, or will we be talking about this as like a what not to do in gaming entertainment? I've now watched trailers on TV for Uncharted. I've seen, gaming IP seems to be dominating all of entertainment these days, at least all the entertainment that surfaces for me. What will we be saying about this after its launch and after we've watched it? What do you guys think?
I mean, the fact that it's the person who did American Vandal, I think that was pretty well done and got some pretty good acclaim in terms of it being like a pretty funny mockumentary. My big fear is this turns into something where it's like putting gaming in esports in a bad light. Where it's almost like everyone just starts making, like, it's like people laughing at you, not with you. Having said that, the fact that Riot's involved, like, I kind of trust that they'll probably get this right and not sort of make a mockery of everything. They have obviously no incentive to do so. So I think it'll end up being like that Mythic Quest show on Apple TV, which I don't know if you guys saw that. I think it was produced by Ubisoft. And it's like, so like everything's on the nose. Like, it's very like the stereotypes are so out there and upfront, but it's funny. It's entertaining. I think it'll end up being like this. It's not going to change. This isn't going to change the gaming world, but I could imagine this being pretty funny, and like we'll probably all watch it, and like, it'll be entertaining. My wife will be like, "Oh, that's what you do?" Like, I think it'll be fun.
Lindsay, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Mockumentary style is one of my favorite things to watch. I think it makes it really accessible, and hopefully, I don't know that it'll necessarily help grow the League audience too much, but what it does do is if it's funny enough, kind of introduce League to a lot of people to at least loosely follow. We've seen that happen a lot. I mean, everyone I know quotes Silicon Valley now and thinks they're like an expert on startup culture. So that's a much different thing. But just the point is that I think it helps with brand recognition. I definitely trust that it's going to go well because Riot's on board. I don't think that they would put out something that would hurt their League numbers or hurt the perception of League players in any way. And I think it's really fun. So I'm excited to watch. I think it's going to be funny.
Yeah, if you had asked me like 2 years ago and if we had read this same topic 2 years ago, I probably would have been like, this could end up being so cringy. It could end up being, not the fun inside jokes, just kind of cringy inside jokes, or like Jeff said, more mocking, laughing at you, not with you. But Riot has like this track record now of entertainment that beyond, their games. Arcane was maybe one of the best shows of 2021, if not the best. And you start to believe that Riot really knows what they're doing when it comes to TV production. Now, even great production companies make bad content or bad shows every once in a while. So no guarantee with this, but I think both of you echoed my thought, which is with Riot at the helm of this, very high chance that this will be quite good and not be on the wrong side of history in terms of its portrayal of gamers, mockingly or not, right? Like for this to work, it has to find this very fine balance between making fun of gamers, but we have to all be able to laugh about it, not not feel like it's being condescending.
Well, and as someone who is a bit tired of seeing, Uncharted, the adaptation, The Last of Us, the adaptation, I'm just glad to see gaming content actually take a fresh direction. And it's not completely out of its wheelhouse, right? Like we've had Big Bang Theory, we had Freaks and Geeks, which heavily focused on Dungeons and Dragons. There's been this kind of, like, we've been working up to this point, so I'm glad that there's finally a fresh take, that it's focused on League. I think is really fun, and it's nice to see something that's not just purely League, the adaptation. It's a much more fun way to get people into it, I think.
Wes says, looking forward to Halo on Paramount. Not sure it's enough for me to subscribe, so I may never see it. Yeah, like there's another one, right, that I've been seeing the ads for everywhere.
Did you guys see The Rock is doing a Call of Duty movie? I don't know if that was like a joke or not.
It was Call of Duty. I never saw the final announcement.
Really?
Well,
I haven't seen
maybe
an
it was
official
someone.
announcement.
Maybe it was okay. It was no official announcement. I saw it on some Instagram. Maybe it was someone being like, "Wouldn't it be cool?"
Jeff
if
got conned on Instagram.
I'm not sure.
Only follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter. I don't know, but it would be cool.
At Jeff Cohen 23, if you're listening. Greg says, could you see it end up like Mythic Quest? I haven't seen Mythic Quest. I don't know if you guys have. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
So funny that Jeff referenced that at the exact same time that Greg's question popped up. I noticed.
I did.
Well, I don't, Greg, I would love, are you saying that in a positive or negative way, I guess is the question, right? Because I think they did a season 2 of Mythic Quest, I think. I'm not sure, but I think they did. Jane says, it's so riot. Let's launch a TV show in every genre. That's true, actually. That's super insightful. But it is there. And it's funny how the floodgates have opened with Riot, right? Like it was literally one game, nothing else.
Let's launch one game for 20 years. Okay, now everything.
All of a sudden, tons of ambition, right? Like, which is interesting. So Wade says, Arcane really surprised me how good it was. Me too, Wade. And I'm not a big League of Legends player at all. So definitely surprised me how good it was. Mark, I forgot this comment before and I wanted to get to it. Mark says, why is Rocket League not the biggest esport in the world? It's easy to understand for non-gamers, very competitive, and has a high skill ceiling. I mean, big question, Mark. I'm curious what you guys think, if you have thoughts on this.
I feel like this is like a William question. Like he would love this. This is like right up his alley.
I mean, I can tell you what I think. It lacks depth, I think. While the skill ceiling is high, it lacks depth. And that lack of depth means you don't get as much of the drama and things like that. I just think it has an audience. You're right, it's easy to understand. You're right, it's competitive. You're right, it has a high skill ceiling. But to be the biggest esport in the world, I think you need more drama, if that makes sense.
I think you also lose a lot of the casual people because they're literally like, they look at it like this is soccer flying around with cars. Like this is just too ridiculous. I think you probably lose people before they even like give it a chance, potentially.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I think agrees with you there because soccer is boring to NA audiences also. That's soccer does not have the best reputation in North America. This is true. All right, guys. Before we continue, I just want to say a quick word. This live stream, this weekly news show, very generously sponsored by YouGov. YouGov produces the absolutely best data on gamers, games, esports fans around the world. If you're operating in or around the gaming space or the esports space, if you're a brand, if you're a team, if you're anyone at all looking at reaching the gaming audience or the gaming market, you really need to be talking to YouGov. They provide incredibly actionable data. They provide all kinds of insight that allow you to make better decisions. So really, really recommend reaching out to them. You can go check out yougov.com/gaming-esports. I'll put it in the chat. It won't appear everywhere depending on what platform you guys are watching or listening on. So yougov.com/gaming-esports. They have a bunch of free reports there that you can check out. But the best way to get in touch with them, ask me, ask Lindsay, ask Jeff, any of us. You can reach out. We can make a connection directly to the people at YouGov. They are incredibly friendly and happy to help and happy to have conversations about their data.
Do we lose Paul?
Can you guys hear me?
I lost you
I
for a
think
bit.
we lost Jeff because I heard you just fine that whole time.
Oh, I lost myself. No, I lost you. We're good. We're back.
Bye.
All right. So definitely go check out YouGov, YouGov.com/gaming-esports, and show them some love. Guys, I have a bit of a silly story that I want to do next, but I have to do it because it's one of those epic the prophet was right moments, right? And I know these happen so regularly, like everyone, is just so used to this by now. But it's really, I couldn't have been more right, and I couldn't have been made more fun of on this live stream about this. So I have to address it. And the headline here is Ford's new gaming concept lets you turn your Mustang Mach-E into an interactive escape room. Okay? For context, on previous live streams, I have said Tesla's gaming capabilities are the perfect getaway from your family, your friends, right? You go in your Tesla, you lock yourself in, you're in the garage, you can play your games, no carbon monoxide because it's electric, so you're perfectly safe. And it's your little oasis, your little gaming oasis. It seems Ford's been listening to me because what they've launched here, they've developed a spy-themed concept game that allows Mustang Mach-E owners to turn their EVs into escape room, or escape car rather. So it functions through the car's touchscreen. It uses functions within the EV to guide the driver and its passengers on a secret mission to deliver a package. Now, what's cool about it, I'll just describe it a bit more here. It says, furthermore, other components within Mach-E allow it to interact with its passengers to guide them. Some of the Mach-E functions that operate during the escape room game are the electric seats, the hands-free tailgate, the air conditioning system, and headlights. It even uses the speakers, so like it gives direction to the driver through the speakers. I think this is very cool. Ford listening to my good advice here. Lindsay, you must feel horribly embarrassed for making fun of me all these weeks, right?
Not at all.
Apology forthcoming here.
I stand firm in my belief that someone who buys this car is going to do this exactly once, probably with their kids, not to escape their kids, and never touch it again. I think it's so funny that you shared this because actually in our Discord, I just shared an article and it was something about like, why aren't dumb cars made? And I was teasing and I was like, oh, did Jeff write this? Because it's just basically like cars have way too many features. I don't want a computer in my car. I just want it to tell me how fast I'm going, how much gas is left, and to move me to where I want to go. And I actually sort of agree with the dumb car thing too. And this is just furthering my point. Like, I don't want to go sit in my car and play a spy game with my friends. I do it once and then I'd be done. And I still think your theory is ridiculous.
Jeff, yeah, you also lack vision.
I also lack vision. I mean, you're talking about escaping to your car. This story is about escaping from your car. So I think I'm not sure I would say the prophet was entirely right here, but yeah, I don't know who the demographic. I just don't know who they're going after, to Lindsay's point with this. Like, who is buying this car because of this? Like the Tesla piece, I actually understand a little bit more. Like if you're in a self-driving car and you can game while you're being driven, like that has appeal to me down the road. I don't think we're there yet, but like I understand that. This is like super gitchy. Like to Lindsay's point, no one's doing this more than once. Like it's just, I don't know. Nobody does escape rooms more than once. Certainly not from your car.
Yeah, but you don't think they could have multiple episodes, different challenges? That like you don't see this evolving over time. It could be as deep and it could be as engrossing as a $60 boxed game. I mean,
it's true. They're gonna do pay to earn. They're gonna do microtransactions.
You don't realize you're actually just driving for Uber, and you think you're playing a game.
Gamified Uber driving.
Yeah. No, so no one. Look. Someone in chat back me up on this. That this is genius, please. Because I really do love.
My favorite part is you specifically said that you wanted to run away from your kids and sit in your car and play games. And this is like, this game screams like it's made for kids to me.
No, that's not what it screams. This sounds like a difficult game. Also, it's like a mystery. Starwise says I just trapped my friends in my car multiple times.
Or your
Yeah,
enemies,
actually,
for that matter.
I don't know if you're actually trapped in the car. The article doesn't say. That would make it even better if you actually were like you had to solve the puzzles to actually get out. Like the car would not unlock until you solved the game. Tom says, I like it with the right execution. I agree, Tom. I really do like this.
Fun gimmick, that's for sure.
All right, guys, let's move on. We have this story came at someone requested this story, and Greg, if you're still in here, I know you wanted to talk about this, and it's another gaming acquisition, but maybe one that did not get as much attention as the Bungie one. And the headline here is New York Times buys popular word game Wordle. The article goes on to talk about that the New York Times announced the purchase of the game on Monday. It's adding the puzzle to their portfolio of word games such as the crossword, the mini, and spelling bee. As of December 2021, the New York Times has over 1 million games subscriptions. I don't know if people pay for that, but Wordle will now play a part in that daily experience, giving millions more people around the world another reason to turn to the Times to meet their daily news and life needs. I listened to that. I read that quote earlier, and I was like, it sounds like their games have a larger audience than the actual, the actual magazine or actual newspaper. What's interesting is Wordle was released in October 2021, so literally 4 months from release to acquisition. I'm curious what this is not like hardcore gaming and esports business. I know lots of people who are fans of this Wordle. My question to you guys is, why would the New York Times have bought this? And if it's such a phenomenon, why wouldn't a King or a Zynga or any like hyper casual game maker not have picked up this IP themselves?
Oh, this fits in perfectly with the Times' other games, some of the ones that they just launched, particularly Spelling Bee. They've also seen more growth in gaming and cooking subscriptions than they have. And they still have more readership subscriptions, but they've seen more growth in those two segments over the past couple years.
I mean, Lindsay, I'm not debating that this makes perfect sense for the New York Times. Perfect sense, right? I'm not debating that. But don't you think it would also make sense? It's considering the developer's only like 3 months old. The game's only 3 or 4 months old. I don't know what kind of price they paid. It's not in any of the articles I saw.
They said low single-digit millions.
Yeah, low single-digit millions.
But like that should have been an easy pickup for a Zynga or a King or any mobile game publisher that produces games like this in volume. Right? Why not pick this up and tuck this into your portfolio if you're one of these game developers?
Good point.
Jeff, I mean,
maybe they tried, and maybe New York Times just paid a little bit more. It actually makes a lot of sense for New York Times. I didn't realize they had this game subscription, and like it's funny. Like you could use the exact same analogy. Microsoft buying Call of Duty to beef up their game subscription. It's the same thing on a much, 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 much smaller scale, but it's the exact kind of game that the New York Times subscribers like. I also feel like it's got this weird, the demographic kind of works. Like I see a lot of the kind of blue check marks on Twitter, like, the kind of people that read the New York Times seem to all be playing Wordle. So I actually think it's a pretty decent demographic fit. Maybe one of the bigger companies didn't pick it up because it never really had a monetization model. And when you put it into a subscription, it works like it's an add-on. Maybe they only really need to get a few more subscribers or keep, increase the lifetime or the retention rate of some subscribers to make it pay back. Like we're not talking about them paying $30 million. We're talking about them paying probably like $4 million. So like you don't need heroic assumptions to like get a little bit of a lift there. So, maybe there's some people who play the game that aren't subscribers to New York Times. You can do some cross sells. Like it doesn't to me seem crazy, and good on this guy, whatever his name is, Josh Wardle, for $4 million, whatever the number is, for 4 months of work. Like kudos to him.
Oh, I'm pissed. I'm pissed that the Times bought it because I know it's not going to be free anymore, but I'm so happy for him that he just made this little game. He said he made it for himself. Like he said, I made it for an audience of one and just had fun with it and sold it for some single digit million number.
Do we think he sold too soon? because my initial reaction was, wow, good on this guy, like cashing out at the peak of, popularity. But like $4 million is not a lot, to Paul's point. Like, why couldn't Zynga come buy this for 20? If it has
I think that
3 million players, like.
I think it's a
Because,
little bit too much of a fad for that, and I think he
yeah.
probably got out at the right time.
Yeah. He had something super hot, fad. Someone offers him life-changing money, right? Like, we could argue, it's not
He
a
lives
lot
in
of money.
Brooklyn,
Well,
$4 million. I don't know. That's not life. You can't even buy an apartment. I don't know about that. $4 million in Brooklyn, not going to get you very far. Can't even pay off his mortgage.
Greg says, you do pay for the game subscription. Okay. Tom says, yes, Wordle is great. I got today's challenge in 3 steps.
Haha, I got it in 2. Beat you, Tom.
I wish I knew what both of you guys were talking about.
Oh my God, play it. It's so fun. So fun.
Tom says 3 million players for $1 million. We are worth 33 cents each. I don't know if it's a million. I think they said low. You guys said low single-digit millions, right? So call it, you're worth 33 cents to $1, roughly. Which I think, where else have we seen? It was Roblox it was what, like it was $100 per user, I think, was the kind of valuation they were getting, right? They had or $1,000.
Someone
right?
did an analysis where it was like they were looking at Roblox versus like Decentraland or one of them. It was either Sandbox or Decentraland was worth like $525,000 per monthly active player, like something like insane. Because I guess their token valuation is currently like 4 trillion, which, I mean, that's just if there's ever been a bubble, like that's definitely a bubble. I actually think I own it too, so I'm the idiot, but that's just ridiculous.
Go watch Meta Business, by the way. Go subscribe. It's a great show.
Yeah, you'll get all the hot takes like that. Great comment.
Tom says, I think the strategy of increasing the length of subscription is right on the mark. Yeah, right. Like if they spend 2 or 3 million on this thing, you don't have to see a huge amount of growth or a huge increase in retention to justify that all day long. Kevin Koch says it's very replicable. True, but
I play like 4 different versions at this point. There's actually there's a math one that's super fun. Yeah.
What are the different versions?
Input
the
right
words
math
are
equation.
specific to.
But doesn't this answer your question? Like cashing out too early? If he's already been knocked off like 5 ways to Sunday.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, might as well cash out now.
Did a great job. Yeah. Getting 4 million for something that a bunch of other people have already written. Like there's even one where you can actually adjust the length of a word. So I've tried to guess, they're typically 5-letter words. I've tried to guess 11-letter words. Like it's it's like 2048. If whoever made 2048 could have sold for 4 million, they definitely should have.
That's funny.
I don't even know.
What?
Tom says nice. All right, guys. Let's. Any other thoughts on Wordle before I move on?
I love Wordle. Everyone share your Wordle scores with me. I will respond.
Here's a question. Very serious question. Was this a metaverse play? Is New York Times creating a metaverse?
Dipping their toes in the metaverse. No.
Very literary one.
Tom says, thanks, Lindsay. I'm off to play Primal after.
I haven't even heard of that one. The number one I play is called Nerdle.
I remember when Lindsay was just playing.
Oh my God, they're not even trying with the knockoffs.
No.
What?
I'm going to look up Primal, though.
I remember when Lindsay used to just be playing her Goose Game. What was that game you would always talk about playing?
Untitled Goose Game. Such a good one.
The other one. There was some other one that you would always talk about.
I mean, I play a lot of Mario. I don't know.
Moving on.
Speaking of metaverses, I can tell you Wordle is not a metaverse. The New York Times not getting into the metaverse. But a company called Portal 1 just might be getting into the metaverse. And let me show you this story because this one I think definitely flew under the radar. The headline here, Portal 1 raises $60 million as it levels up to launch its hybrid immersive gaming platform later this year. Basically what it says is Portal 1, which is building an immersive gaming platform that describes itself as hybrid in more ways than one. It mixes games with a game show, talk show format, and it's designed to work across various devices from mobile through to consoles and VR headsets, has picked up $60 million. The startup, based in Oslo but with a significant presence in LA, plans to use the funding to continue building out its platform and operations en route to its first commercial launch, Portal 1 Arcade, a journey into a retro arcade featuring multiple games. Tiger Global is leading the round. It's a Series A, so $60 million Series A, with Scooter Braun's TQ Ventures, Temasek. For those of you who don't know, Temasek is one of the sovereign funds of Singapore, I think. Founders Fund, Talus Capital, Avenir Growth, Connect Ventures, Animoca Brands, like very high profile, well-known investors, right? That's the gist of it here. And this comes 8 months after they raised a $15 million seed round. So 15 million seed round, $60 million Series A. And I'm not entirely sure what the vision is here. I'll be honest, guys. But they're really pushing on this metaverse thing, and they're really pushing on, that they're universe building, essentially. I'm curious your general thoughts on this, if you guys have feelings one way or the other, if you've read about this, if you heard about this. And
all I saw was something about paper valuation of 2.75 billion. I mean,
no, they're talking about Dream. They're talking about Dream Games
company, but still, it's like, man, I guess the one general thought I have is it's crazy how the sentiment has shifted so much in gaming, where I remember not even 2 years ago, you literally would talk to VCs and it'd be like, well, we don't fund games. Like, we'll fund, infrastructure plays and software, but like, we don't do games because they're too hit driven. And now you have some of the best VCs out there throwing, $60 million at something that, it's a game. This is a hit driven game. I get it. They're calling it a platform, a metaverse, whatever you want to call it. This is a game, right? Like this, and they're competing with a ton of other people trying to do the same thing. So what I think is there must be something there that these people are seeing that we're not seeing, because reading that description and looking at that picture, I wouldn't even, if this person emailed me, I probably wouldn't even respond. So clearly there is something that we're not seeing, because these are people that are investing in this are the best of the best. Or maybe they don't understand games. I don't know. Maybe they're just jumping into the next hot thing. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but like, to me, this is not something that I think should be getting funded at this kind of level.
It's the story that's very compelling, Jeff, right? Like, and where I have doubts is it's like, this almost sounds too good to be true. Like, let me just read part of this article here. It says, Portal 1 seems custom made to fill a gap in the metaverse. One of the big issues with VR and AR has been a decided lack of compelling content. With its hybrid mantra, and they always talk about hybrid, Portal 1 positions itself as supremely flexible, there to be used on whichever platform a user might have at hand. Like, what does that mean, right? Like, right. And if I can play it on my smart fridge the same way I can play it on my $10,000 gaming PC, like, what is the experience exactly? And what's interesting is the first product they're launching, this Portal 1 Arcade, they're not even making the games. Like, it sounds like they're just licensing arcade games that they're fitting into like a lobby, basically like a VR lobby that you get into and can play these arcade games. And I hate to throw this idea out there, but to me, there's three scenarios here, right? Where we don't understand what these other investors are seeing, and we're clearly missing something. That's scenario one. Scenario two is there's genuinely something here, right? And maybe it just takes time, and maybe some of the messaging is being used to capitalize on the hype, but there is a real, solid business idea at its foundation here that is something they can execute on. Or three, the hype is fooling even some of the smartest investors on the planet, which, Lindsay, I don't know if you have thoughts.
Yeah, we do have to consider. We have to consider that there's one more scenario, and that's that this company is going to bring the metaverse straight into your car so you can escape your children and play in the garage.
I hope it's that one.
Well, they said
And in
it's
that case,
hybrids. You can
it's
play
worth
it
$1
everywhere. Or
billion.
You
whatever.
can play it on your Prius.
Yeah. Worth $1 billion. No, it's so hard because you don't want to think that investors are just buying the hype or buying the story. And I would love to give them all the credit in the world and say, no, there's something here that we don't quite understand yet. But I just, to use Paul's word, fundamentally can't see that and really feel like they are selling a story and it's working. And I would love to be proven wrong on that. Maybe they do have some really innovative product that I just don't understand yet.
I mean, Paul, if you had gun to your head, which one of the three is? I mean, it could always be two, right? I'll we haven't seen the pitch deck, we haven't seen the demo, so it's entirely possible it's two. But if you had to guess between 1 and 3, are we the idiots here, or is it the people? Like, what's your gut?
There's
feeling?
no. I definitely don't. I'm
hype?
not. There's no idiots, right? These are very smart investors, very successful investors.
Of course.
The analogy I often use is, when I was a tech investor, a big part of my focus at the time, in the time period I'm thinking, was like mobile, web, social. Like these were hot topics, mid 2000s, early 2000s. And if I saw a deal in that space, I could dissect, right? I knew exactly what to look for. I knew exactly what had potential. I knew exactly the kinds of skills the team needed to make this successful. In gaming today, I feel I have that same level of knowledge, right? That same ability to look at something and zero in and say, this makes a lot of sense. I think the challenge is, like at that time, if you had shown me a deal in the healthcare space, like a new drug, right? And you make the claim that it saves lives. Well, I'm not a medical doctor, right? Like I'm not a chemist. I would have looked at it and go, wow, this sounds amazing. It saves lives. Like, yes, I'll give you money, right? How many millions are we going to save? How many billions of dollars are we going to make? That sounds incredible. And it's more just not that I'm not a smart investor. I just lacked the experience, the skill set in that particular area to be able to be very critical about the opportunity. And I think right now there's a lot of feeling of not wanting to miss out. And so maybe people are skipping some steps in terms of, the diligence on deals. And I'm not saying that's the case here. Not at all, right? This company has raised $75 million. I'm sure there's an incredible business plan behind all this. I'm sure there's an incredible vision behind all this. It could be just a very poorly written article, which would not be the first time with TechCrunch, right? Where they don't understand what they're writing about. And I suspect that's the case here, just to be clear. But I also think that in some industries, like where it's moving as fast as we are with gaming and metaverse and all this stuff, there's no way that every smart investor can stay up to speed on everything. It's just almost impossible. And so can you get fooled by the hype? Absolutely. Can you get seduced because you don't want to miss out? Absolutely. It happens all the time. I've seen it happen. But, it's frustrating when we who are, in some ways make a living out about commenting on these things can't get the full picture. To me, that's frustrating. Like I would love to see the pitch deck for this company and see if there really is something very compelling there, or it's just the journalist who didn't understand.
100% echo that. If anyone from this company or any of those funds happens to be listening and hear this, which they may, because this is, one of the premier esports podcasts and gaming podcasts, please reach out to us. I would love to be told why, we're not seeing this correctly and hear the vision. I mean, nothing would make me happier than to be proven wrong or explained why I'm not seeing it.
This is the most fun part in some ways of having guests on Business of Esports, is we get to hear the stories firsthand and ask the questions firsthand and, expose to our audience what's interesting, what's challenging, and all those kinds of things. So, as Portal 1 here evolves and grows and releases, I'm sure at some point we will have them on the podcast and we'll get the full story. But this is a who's who of investors in this deal. And, when that happens, I tend to side with, they know what they're doing here. It's unlikely that they were all kind of seduced by hype. There's probably something there. So All right, guys. That let's move on. Let's talk. I'll do
Lightning
one
round.
last.
Lightning.
Yeah, can we? Is there enough stories?
There is. You want to do like a quick lightning round?
Yeah. They're my favorite.
Okay, hold on. All right, let's do a quick lightning round. You literally have like a 1-sentence reaction, okay?
I like that.
2 sentence, like super fast.
Stop adding on.
Like 3 sentences, like 4 at most.
A minute, 2 minutes each.
All right. Call of Duty fans think Scump's retirement will be bigger than Tom Brady's. Lindsay?
Oh my god, this is hilarious. Good for them. I'm glad that they're that dedicated.
Here was the poll, just so you see it. 72% Scump, 28% Tom Brady. Jeff?
I'm a Jets fan, and this is just wrong. It's not true.
In spite of you being a Jets fan.
Yeah.
Okay. Call of Duty, somewhat delusional. Continues to be somewhat
that's
delusional.
a thumbs down for me.
Nintendo hits gaming music YouTube channel with 1,300 copyright blocks. Nintendo has sent 1,300 copyright strikes to the YouTube channel Gilva Sunner, which hosted the soundtracks of several classic Nintendo games. Jeff?
Nintendo just still doesn't get it. I don't understand why they feel the need to do this. Without, we don't have all the context here. Maybe there's some other reason why they want to take this guy down, but Nintendo is just so behind on everything UGC and streaming and esports. So get it together, Nintendo, please.
Lindsay?
Nintendo is boring and irritating, and I still love their games, but I really wish that they would do more with platforms and streaming and everything.
At some point, Nintendo's goodwill will run dry, and they become an acquisition target or a failure, and they will have to change. I think change will have to come to Nintendo. They cannot continue like this. I agree. All right. Which one did I do? Okay. Oh, this one's interesting. Saudi Arabia could be a global leader in gaming and esports by 2030. Boston Consulting Group said the market is set to grow at an average compound annual growth rate of 22%, and a market expected to reach 6.8 billion by 2030. Create jobs, all kinds of good things in the kingdom. Supposedly 23.5 million gaming enthusiasts in Saudi Arabia, which is 67% of the national population. So huge penetration. Thoughts, Lindsay?
I absolutely believe in the growth. I hope that content moderation doesn't wind up stalling it, and I worry about the way the government operates in being conducive to it forever.
Jeff?
Agree with this. I'm very bullish on this. I mean, we just saw last week the Savvy Gaming Group acquisition of ESL, and face it, clearly that was the first move of many. I think we're going to see that group and other groups like it become a lot more aggressive in the gaming space.
Agreed. Everyone has their eyes on India and China in gaming. Saudi Arabia, UAE are going to be the horses to bet on, if you ask me. There's just massive growth coming from those areas and so much disposable income. That's the big difference. All right, next one. Harry Potter game shutting down next week. So this is the Niantic game, Harry Potter Wizards Unite. It's officially going to close. Actually, it closed 2 days ago. So this past Monday. And very, visible failure. Very big failure for Niantic that had not, I don't think, had a big failure up until this point. The game didn't even last, right? It came out on June 21st, 2019. Yeah. So lasted 2.5 years, I guess, something like that.
This is pretty wild. I mean, we've known it's been a failure for quite some time. Obviously, this is them finally just kind of putting it out of its misery and shooting it. But I remember when that came out, I mean, it was billed. Pokemon Go had clearly been a mega hit and still is, which is the crazy part. But people were very bullish given the Harry Potter IP and that, AR mechanic. it'll be interesting to see where Niantic goes from here. They did just raise a whole bunch of money from Co2 and some investors around metaverse hype and kind of this AR metaverse piece, which I'm personally actually fairly bullish on. So it'll be interesting to see where they go, but they have not been able to extend past that Pokemon Go mega hit.
Lindsay, is it COVID?
No, I think that in previous years, the hype around the IP has died down. I also think that there's been so many great adaptations, particularly the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, that have been a slam dunk success. That combined with the dying hype around the IP, which it's not dead by any means, but it's not certainly not what it was. If this came out 10 years ago, I think it'd be a smash success. Have just kind of put the brakes on it. Harry Potter was never great at adapting into games anyway, for whatever reason. And so I am not surprised by this. I did think if anyone could do it, it could be Niantic. So I would not be excited about anyone else releasing a Harry Potter game in the future.
I'm just amazed that anything Harry Potter IP could fail. Like I struggle to find reason for that, because I feel like there's just a hardcore audience for literally anything Harry Potter that it should have been able to lift this to success. I don't know if it's the COVID effect, right? People couldn't go out and actually play the game, but it's discouraging when such an important IP fails to succeed. Maybe it goes to show you that IP isn't everything, right? That good IP.
There's been significant drama around J.K. Rowling, and
True,
I think that hurt it a lot.
Guys, second last one here. Ubisoft exec says angry gamers don't get NFTs. So this is Ubisoft Quartz boss considers universally negative reaction to NFT plans. It says Ubisoft's executive in charge of the company's new and generally despised NFT endeavor said in an interview that Ubisoft is accustomed to such immediately negative responses, and said video game fans don't get what a digital secondary market can bring to them. He says, for now, because of the current situation and context of NFTs, gamers really believe it's first destroying the planet and second a tool for speculation. The end game is about giving players the opportunity to resell their items once they're finished with them or they're finished playing the game itself. So Ubisoft exec coming out saying, these gamers, they don't understand anything, right? We're trying to do something good for them and they just don't get it.
I mean, this is, can you pull back? Sorry, Lindsay, go. Yeah. I'll go first. So, like, this is exactly the problem, because it's like, I actually, if you read the quote, I agree with literally every single thing that he said. Like, every piece of what he said is actually probably is true. Like, I don't think gamers understand right now the value of what a digital secondary market does. I think they do view it the ruin the planet thing. Maybe that is an element for people, but I think people view it as a cash grab and speculation, whereas it is about giving people the opportunity to resell their items. So, like, I actually think everything he's saying is right. The fact that this got twisted into being, oh, well, Ubisoft, they just don't get it, they're idiots. It's like, it's people like Polygon who have such an axe to grind against this whole concept of Web3 gaming. They are the ones that are creating this negative narrative. Like, what he said was totally fine, I think, at least.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I think what he said is accurate, but I don't think telling an audience that you're trying to sell stuff to, you don't get it, instead of making a more accessible product or convincing argument that they should be excited about it and should pay for it is the way to go.
But is he wrong?
He's not wrong.
If he wants to, he's not wrong. But if he wants to sell people on Ubisoft having NFTs as part of their strategy, then this is not the way to do it.
So I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, but he's not saying, like, to a gamer, like, you're an idiot, you just don't get it. It's an interview about why did that fail.
You guys have phones. I mean, this is exactly.
It's completely an interview about why did it fail, and he's saying, well, I don't think people understand the value proposition yet.
Well, he says video game fans, and this is a direct quote, don't get what a digital secondary market can bring to them. And I I understand how some people might read that as he's calling them idiots, right? Like, if I say, yeah, Jeff, you just don't get.
So
right?
You are correct, but I think the people who are taking it that way would we're predisposed to already dislike this.
Agreed.
Like if he was like, we are so sorry, we're backtracking, we will never do it again, they'd be like, look at that person, just they had no conviction, like they're idiot, blah, blah, blah. Like these people are going to be negative anyway. So I actually think, I don't know, I respect that Ubisoft is kind of leaning into this and being like, look, we're gonna be the tip of the spear and kind of like put our neck out. And I think he's right. I don't think
easier way of saying it though than saying, our gamers don't get it. Like that's so dismissive to me. That's just as dismissive as the gamers on the other side saying, I don't think
he said it that way. First of all, these people, most of them are English is not their first language. So like you have to, when they're giving an interview, it's that there is some element of that. So they're probably like a little bit less verbose than like, someone like Bobby Kotick might be, but I didn't think what he said was wrong.
Both right.
I really think
you're both right.
I think he's right.
You're both right. His quote is right. To Lindsay's point, could he have been a bit more delicate and diplomatic? Yes. Is the journalist here probably skewing it? Definitely yes.
Hold on though, because I don't think it's just about him being more delicate and diplomatic. It's also about Ubisoft making this a value add to their players. And if they are not selling it well enough, then there's no reason for people to support it too.
Well, he made good reasons.
Like, this is the future. You have to like it. Like, no.
He made good reasons how it adds value, right? You could resell the items after you're finished with the game or things like that. Like he made some good reasons, but you can't just shove it down people's throats. You do have to sell people on the benefits.
Well,
and starting your sales pitch with you don't get it is not necessarily the best way to start the sales pitch. But again, sometimes these journalists do come with a bias, right? Like that's just the reality. And
I'm not even talking about the sales pitch though. I'm talking about the product itself too. If you're going to add this as a product to your strategy, then you have to make sure that your audience not only gets it, knows how to use it, but that they like it. Like if they just got it and they knew how to use it and they still didn't like it, that'd be different. But like they didn't walk this out well enough. There's like hardly any trading on the platform. It didn't go well. You had to put in 650 hours to get anything. Like, and now he's mad that the gamers don't get it. No.
I think you're being completely unfair to him. Like you're right about the execution not being there, but like him giving an interview explaining like, hey, I just don't think that gamers understand the value that this brings to him doesn't mean that he doesn't feel that he has to help them understand it.
Yeah,
like I think it's taken a little bit out of context, and I think we're attacking.
It was a direct quote, but I see what you're saying.
Well, it could have been that one sentence could have been a direct quote, and the next quote could have been, "I don't think gamers understand the value proposition." Blah blah blah. We have to do a better job walking them through it. Blah blah blah.
It wasn't that, but I still get what you're saying.
Agree to disagree,
guys. We're gonna end on this one. This last one. This is 100 Thieves. Very simple. It's an NFT. They're giving it away. You can go claim it. You connect your wallet. It's their 100 Thieves championship chain. You can see it spinning here on the right. Free of charge. It's just for all the fans who supported. It says who supported us on the journey from expansion franchise to champions. So it's a digital collectible of the Diamond 100 Thieves chain, available for everyone, completely free. What do you guys think? You love this? Great idea. Every team should be doing this, or you think this is just a gimmick? Lindsay?
It's a gimmick, but this is an easy way to introduce your audience to the concept of NFTs.
Jeff?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, it's there's no utility here, but it's a collectible, and I think it's a good, like Lindsay said, it's a good way to get people into NFTs, and it's free, so they're not asking you to pay anything. It's not a cash grab. It's moderately cool. Will anyone care about it 2 weeks from now? No, at all.
I have to admit the animation is cool, but agreed that no one's going to care about it. And there's no scarcity, right? So it's not going to have any value. Lindsay?
Oh, yeah, I was just agreeing with you. It actually does look a lot cooler than if you had read this out loud and I didn't see the visual, I'd probably roll my eyes. But looking at it, it's like, pretty neat.
If there are people who are listening to this as a podcast after the fact, I'm sorry, but it's kind of a cool animation of the diamond chain, and it looks quite realistic. This was not sort of thrown together. Clearly, some time was spent on this, so interesting to see. 100 Thieves, always pretty good with the merch, digital or otherwise, right? That's their thing. So, all right, guys, that wraps up this week's weekly news show. Thank you all for coming. Everyone who was in here, please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues about the live stream. We do it every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, everyone who commented. It makes it that much more fun and interesting for us. Lindsay, thank you. Jeff, thank you for filling in. I know you guys are here every week, but meaning covering for Jimmy, who's not feeling well today, and picking up the slack. I know he appreciates it, and our audience appreciates it. And for all of you, stay tuned for the podcast this week. It's a lot of fun. Make sure to go subscribe to the sister podcasts, brotherly podcast, whatever you want to call it, Meta Woman and Meta Business, if you haven't already. And go follow Business of Esports everywhere. We're on every single platform: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. If you're not following Business of Esports or Biz Esports on every single platform, then you're not getting all the content we're putting out. That's just the reality. And the best part, I will mention it this week. I'm going to put it back in the chat one more time. Definitely go join our Discord. That's the place. If you just can't get enough content from Business of Esports or Meta TV or Meta Woman or Meta Business, we're all in the Discord. Every one of the hosts, every one of my staff, even everyone involved with all this content is in that Discord. It's growing like crazy. Really a lot of fun to chat with all of you who are in there. Go sign up, go join discord.gg/metatv. Super easy. You just have to click on that link, put that link in your browser, and you will automatically join. And really appreciate all of you guys coming. Francois says, thanks for the podcast. Wade says, thanks, everyone. Tom says, thanks. Always look forward to it. Thank all of you. We really appreciate it. And as always, we will see you guys next week.